getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome to Season 4 of 2025 for the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 1 this season, coming to you today from Phillip Island. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. We are here at the start of a brand new season, folks. Another 12 weeks of awesome Formula V Weekend Warriors action, and to get all up and rolling, we head off to Phillip Island, a rather intriguing track in the world of iRacing, Josh. This 12-turn, a tick over 2 3/4 of a mile road circuit down there in Australia has hosted some pretty good races and put on a pretty good race last season. So I have a feeling that the season opening round here today probably going to be quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely excited to kick off another season here with the Formula V Weekend Warriors, and I think it's going to be a great season as well here. Some of the same players, some new faces as well. Starting off here at Phillip Island, one of my favorite tracks, nice and curvy and fast and smooth. really kind of one of my favorite ones, honestly. I think we're going to get a lot of drafting around here, even through corners and stuff. It's going to be another one, like I always like to say, about making good decisions around here and knowing when to pass, when not to be side by side and so on. There is a little bit of difficulty in the end part of this lap here. It can get a little bit difficult. So again, it's going to be down to the driver who went out there and did the most laps and practiced, I think.
Yeah, I think you bring up a fantastic point there, Josh. Practice will make perfect here today. And as you said, we have some new names in some new faces. And here's one of them, the sponsor of today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, Michelle Lynn out there on the track right now. Thank you, Michelle. And here's Michelle's car. You may notice it's a little bit different. Gone is that Philly representation of the 215. It's now the 5 on the side of that car. And what that means, folks, is that Michelle Lynn has made the jump up into Spec 1 for this season. But she's not the only competitor that used to race in the Spec 2 category making a change. Reigning Spec 2 champion Parvin Ladar is also making that leap up into Spec 1. And race winner here at Phillip Island just one season ago, Andrew Love, has made the jump from Spec 2 over into the Masters category. This round, he still has his classic 544, but come time for the next round, that will be changed. But right now, still in the early stages of this qualifying session right now, running on board with Michelle as she heads her way out of turn number 2, a very long and challenging bend on a very long and draft-heavy racetrack this for the Formula Vs. That was the source of a bit of contention when the series rocked up to this track last season. I have a feeling that may be a case of deja vu, but here's a good overtaking opportunity. The hairpin of turn number 4, Josh. We've done a couple of broadcasts at Phillip Island over the years. I think the first one that we did together was here with some GT3s many moons ago, if I remember correctly. And if my memory serves me correctly about that as well, there was a pretty big pile up at the start of that race. Turn 4, bit of a trouble spot around this circuit.
Yeah, it definitely is. Probably one of the best passing opportunities, like you said there. It can also kind of set up a lot of side-by-side racing through this section when that pass either A, doesn't work out, or there's a bit of a switchback or something, and then kind of trying to sort yourself out through this section. Really blind corner here that you kind of have to set yourself up for. This is actually not a bad passing opportunity here as well. If you can get it just right, you can kind of sneak one up the inside into that sort of cambered corner right there. Use a bit of that grip to help you. Very strange curb structure coming through that section here. And then another sort of counterintuitive area here where you can see Michelle Lynn taking the shortest line possible through here. You wouldn't necessarily do that in some cars, but in the V, you're just not going to be kind of V-maxing by the time you get around this corner. So not worrying about grip at all. And you can just kind of hammer it right down this front straight here. But as you mentioned, Ron, there's going to be a lot of drafting today, a lot of decision making to be made, and only really a couple passing opportunities.
Yeah, that's a good point to raise. Even in these draft-heavy Formula Vs, overtaking can be a bit of a challenge around here, but these racers probably going to be able to get the job done rather well. But it's just one race, one track from an amazing calendar to look forward to here, and not just the Formula V Weekend Warriors, but the entirety of the Weekend Warriors world for that matter. Looking at this calendar, Phillip Island, of course, here today, Sebring on the club layout. Next time at the Saxon Ring, the host for round number 3, Lime Rock for week number 4, Ostersleben for week 5, Magny Core, Summit Point, VIR on that north configuration, Lebanon, Alton Park on that brand new refreshed version of the track, and then Okayama and Brands Hatch to bring this season to a close. We'll also have some rain to worry about at the Ostersleben race in a couple of weeks' time, but more on that in the not too far off future. For now, though, let's stay with our current provisional pole sitter and get used to this site. It's the number 1 car of Felix Samoa's, your reigning champion, Tortello, after winning 3 straight championships from Season 4 of last year, all the way through into Season 2 of 2025, wasn't able to defend his crown, didn't show up to too many races. I think he only showed up to 5 or 6, which is kind of disturbing when you realize the fact that he still ended up finishing 3rd in last season's championship. But Felix Samoa's was able to get the job done. He's now got that number 1 on his race car, and he's currently number 1 in this qualifying session, sharing the front row with our SMB colleague, Mr. Guido Marzucchi.
Yeah, it looks like he's back up at the front with that number 1 this season as well. And yeah, as you were saying with Tor there, you know, it's fairly easy to get 3rd when you only show up to 6 races, but you win all 6 of those races. And, you know, that's kind of what he seems to do here. He cleans up pretty much most of them. I think he pretty much won every race he was in there, unless, of course, Felix Samoas took one. And, yeah, it looks like he's going to be our champion from last season. And leading into this season as well, and Alan Degas is just behind him now. Again, about 3/10 behind, and then Guido Marzucci very close, and then Andrew Love, and then Antonio Reese and Chris Montgomery also pretty close to each other there. But definitely class of the field here. Samoa's with a almost 3/10 lead over the rest of the field here, which is pretty surmountable, or insurmountable, I would say, if you're his competitor today. But we will see, like we were saying, Ron, this is going to be a draft track, and a lot of the time what will happen in these situations is that, you know, Guido or Alan and Andrew, Antonio, Chris Montgomery here will be able to draft each other, and they'll find those lines that Felix is using, perhaps pick up a little bit of pace, and then be able to challenge him for a win today. So hopefully that's what we'll see. I would imagine that is what we're going to see here, as they're just trying as hard as they can to poke in some better laps here with the wee hours of our qualifying session here winding down.
And not a lot of time left in this qualifying session. A reminder to those tuning into this series for the very first time, how the qualifying in the Formula V Weekend Warriors works is that these drivers have 15 minutes and 4 laps to try and get the job done. They have the track all to their lonesome, which is definitely a big thing in these very draft-heavy Formula Vs. I've said it quite a lot, whether it be on these shows, whether it be on the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, or whether it be some radical action that I cover on the iRacing channel every single Friday. These cars are high up in the top 3, maybe even the #1 drafters of road course cars on the iRacing platform. They are draft monsters, and come time for this 30-minute long race that lies ahead, I'm sure that game of drafting leapfrog very much going to be one that these drivers try and play. These are low-powered cars. I said this jokingly last season, but there's a lot of truth said in just. These cars have about as much power as a household appliance, which is part of the reason why Guido Marzucci is keeping it oh so tight. Heading off through the final turn, here's Russ Telker, your current top qualifier in the Spec 2 category, currently slotted in P11. Will he improve? He will, to 156.598. He jumped up into P8, building a bit of a cushion between himself and Brian Szynski, fellow Spec 2 racer, slotted in 12th.
Yeah, and it looks like Brian's actually just about to put in his best lap here pretty shortly. First 2 sectors looking pretty green for him. We see Felix Samoa popping in some more purple sectors there at the bottom, so he's still out there finding some pace as well. That's a little bit foreboding for the rest of the field there for sure, that he is still out there finding pace, maybe dropping a little bit of fuel, helping him out on that regard. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of green sectors getting popped in here. Buttermore's just hit a yellow one there. I'll see if Straczynski can improve, and he does, up to 10th place, so not too bad for the 2 top Spec 2 drivers to be in the top 10 here. We always like to see that. We have Alan Degas there in the Masters up in 2nd place overall as well, so he's punching well above his weight as usual. He's up there quite a bit. Andrew Love, I believe, as well this season into the Masters category, so he's going to have to deal with the likes of Antonio Reese and Alan Degas for the win this season. And yeah, I think other than that, we had Michelle Lynn move, I believe, to S1, and we had Parvinder Ladar to move to S1 as well, who's now up in 3rd place, just behind Alan Degas here. And Felix Samoa is still with the 156.1 versus the 156.433 of Alan Degas. That's quite the gap there, Ron.
Yeah, it is a bit of a cushion that we see up at the front of the field. Fascinating to see what sort of lap times these racers can set in these solo sessions when they have no draft assistance, nothing really towing them along. And really, again, a good view of that in this qualifying session. I want to touch on Parvinder Ladar, though. You mentioned very good season last season, was able to walk away with that Spec 2 championship. He put in some brilliant drives throughout that season as well. Looking through some of the results that he had throughout last season, was able to capture 3 wins in the Spec 2 category, which may not seem like a whole lot in the grand scheme of 12 races, but whenever he was winning, he was putting in some pretty good results. Every single win that he got was actually a top 5 in that Spec 2 category, top 5 overall, that is. And last season, he was even able to start the VIR race on the front row. Those Spec 2 racers, you can always keep tabs on them. I would say probably here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors, more than some of the other series that we cover in the Weekend Warriors world, the Spec 2 racers have more of a chance just because these cars are absolute draft monsters. They can close up, they can be there in that discussion, and they can usually keep it rather clean as well. So keep an eye on a Spec 2 racer to maybe shock the world. Andrew Love last season at this exact same racetrack was the only non-Spec 1 competitor from not just the Formula Vs, but the entire Weekend Warriors world to walk away from last season with a win overall in one of these races. So keep an eye on those Spec 2 racers throughout this Formula V Weekend Warriors season, because they can impress.
Yeah, it's a really good point you bring up there, Ron. These cars being a little bit unique, not only in the way that they draft, but they kind of give you a little bit more time to think behind the wheel as well, where things happen a little bit faster in the FF or the SRF or a GT3. Got a little bit more time to think about things here, and it does seem to kind of slow things down a little, gets a little more methodical, and somehow that just allows every once in a while a driver who might not be up front be able to be up front with that pack and kind of, like I was saying before, you can kind of almost learn on the fly a little bit quicker, perhaps, a track than when things are coming at you so quickly like they do in an FF race and people are all over the place and the car's so hard to drive. This car itself, not that hard to drive. You're driving the track out there and you're racing your competitors. So it gives a chance for the the Andrew Loves and the Russell Telkers, maybe even down in the 13th, someone like Joshua Justice, who we know can drive very well. He's in 12th place or 13th now. You never know. Somebody like him can be up in the top 5, top 3 in no time because of the draft and just being able to find some pace out there.
So all throughout the season, we're going to keep an eye on all of these competitors because they have a good shot to get it done week in and week out. And the same goes for the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords as well. The absolute brilliant drivers that we've got in this Weekend Warriors season. Every single season that I get the opportunity to cover this championship, the driver talent always amazes me, and they always amaze me trying to figure out where exactly they're going to go for the jump. That's Jason Grider going off to Timbuktu. I think he ballparked it out of there. I would love to see if anybody could vault themselves off into the water here at Phillip Island. I'm pretty sure iRacing will not allow you to do that, but a man can dream. A man can dream indeed. But with qualifying just about in our rearview mirror, only a couple seconds left to go before we can switch our attention into the race that lies ahead to get this season up and rolling. We want to welcome all of you to a brand new season of action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Season 4 of 2025 has a lot of action to talk about. We'll touch on that a little bit later on in this show. For now, though, let's take a look at the first starting grid from this Formula V Weekend Warriors season. And it's going to be Felix Samoa starting this race from the pole position, the reigning Spec 1 champion looking to defend his crown. Alan DeGassis, who was really impressive last season in the Masters category, will join Samoas on that overall front row, taking the Masters pole position in the process. Parvin Ladar will start this race in P3, fittingly in the number 3 car, alongside our SMB colleague, Mr. Guido Marzucchi. It's going to be an all-Masters row number 3, with Andrew Love, the newcomer to the Masters category, in 5th, alongside Antonio Reese, looking to try and avenge his missed opportunity to win the championship last season. Ended up 3rd last season. I think he'll want to gain 2 spots in that championship standings. He's going to start in 6th. Right behind will be Kurt Nunez and your Spec 2 pole sitter of Russ Telker. Chris Montgomery will start this race in 9th, with Brian Szynski rounding out your top 10.
And then in 11th place, we have Stefan Heemskirk. In 12th, we have series admin Michelle Lynn, and sponsor of today's race, by the way. In 11th, we have, in 13th, we have Joshua Justice. In 14th, Donnie Isley. 15th, Brian Hansen. Dan Straczynski is in 16th. In 17th, we have Jason Grider. 18th, Stefan Westcott. 19th, Brian Hoover. And in 20th, we have Dave McLean.
And then rounding out your field is going to be Wayne Buttermore starting this race in 21st. Brian Belansky, the SECA announcer, will start in P22. And that will round out your starters for this race. A bit of a shortened pace lap here, so we don't have a lot of time to talk about stuff. I do want to raise this, though. Got some word in this past week from one of the racers in the Weekend Warriors world, the other brother of P2 in the Spec 2 category starter for today's race, Dan Szynski, letting us know to wish their dad, Bill, the best. He recently had a new heart valve put in. I believe it was this past Tuesday. So, Bill, if you're watching this, I hope the recovery comes along well, and I hope that I don't scare you throughout this broadcast, because we're going to have some great racing, going to have some maybe slightly terrifying moments throughout this show as well, but it's a brand new season of action here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Delighted to have your company here for a brand new adventure on Slow Motion Broadcasting. 12 weeks of racing action all begins right now as the green flag is out and the drivers are on their way, and Felix Samoas gets off to a flyer. Parvin Ladar trying to apply some pressure to Alan DeGassis. They're going to be side by side as they head their way down the start-finish stretch off into turn number 1. Just quick enough for these racers to keep the momentum rolling, but still good overtaking spot. Let's see who's going to try and get the moves done, make hay while the sun is shining. But Samoas gets off to that great start. He still holds on to the lead as they headed off into turn number 2. Parvin Ladar jumps his way up into 2nd, and Andrew Love with a great start, now running in 3rd.
Looks like we got a pretty clean start here so far. No real jumpers there. Pretty good pack start from everyone. Kind of can sometimes cause a bit of a mashup here, but it looks like we're sorting each other out pretty well here so far. You know, the beginning laps on this track, it's pretty wide, and it's not too difficult to kind of keep things fairly safe at the beginning. I don't want to jinx anything here too much, but we are looking pretty clean so far. Phillip Island, you know, pretty wide track, fairly easy to get side by side around here without too much stress. So I'm not expecting to see too many sparks here right away, especially after all these drivers have been driving with each other for a few seasons in a row now, and they're kind of getting to know where they should be, who they should fight with, how they should fight them. So hopefully we're going to see a little bit of that today. Get some really good battling around Phillip Island. It looks like already we're pretty nose to tail through the whole field.
See, not a lot of big gaps forming, not a lot of big breaks in the action as they head their way off through the middle sector down into turn number 10. A good overtaking spot. Let's see what these racers are going to try and do. Running on board with Antonio Reese, trying to have another good season in the Weekend Warriors world. He was very impressive throughout season 3. He wants to get some more championship crowns here in season 4. I have a feeling that he's going to be one that we keep our eyes on all season long. So too with Chris Montgomery in the 33 machine. He makes his way past Antonio, jumps his way into P7. Do want to note a meatball flag in the air for Stephen Westcott. Not sure what happened to the driver of the 225 car, but he's down the pits as we are 4 wide at the front of this field. Contact being made between Andrew Love and Alan DeGassis as Parvin Ladar and Felix Samoa as the 2 Spec 1 competitors get shown the door down that start-finish stretch into turn number 1.
Yeah, that was a solid 4 wide moment there for a good second or two. Little bit of a touch there between the 927, I believe, and it might have been Parvinder Ladar there. Just a tiny little touch. Nothing too crazy though. And we have a just pack of V's here. This starts to look a little bit stressful as a driver when you're in the mid pack here. Like Chris Montgomery's having a real good look off his nose here. Just how close everybody can get together. We're formation flying around Phillip Island here, trying to sort out exactly where we need to be. Super clean so far. Very impressed from all the drivers here on.
That looks like a formation lap. That is absurd as they head their way out of turn number 4 into 5 and 6 right now. This medium speed hairpin going to build that momentum as they head their way off into the tight and twisty mid sector of this lap. Going to see some racers single file out. For the most part, though, they're still going side by side. Look at Antonio Reese and Kurt Nunez involved in their own little squabble. Nunez, pretty impressive last season, put in some good drives throughout the Weekend Warriors world. Let's see what season 4 has in store for him. Currently slotted P4 of those Masters competitors. I gotta say, Josh, and this is honest, I think the Masters category may be the class that I'm keeping eyes on the most. You've got such a large amount of talent in that category. Andrew Love, of course, making that jump up into that category. Alan DeGassis really impressive throughout last season. Antonio Reese and Kurt Nunez, always got to keep an eye on them. Wayne Buttermore, a stalwart here in the Weekend Warriors and Ray Esports world. Always like keeping tabs on the driver of the 973 car. And your reigning champion of Jim Brewster, who I believe is on vacation this week. Not here this week, but the series admin probably going to return for the next 11 weeks. And once he comes in, that battle for the championship at Masters is really going to be, that's going to be must-watch TV.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right there on the Masters class is really shaping up for sure. You know, it's one of those age and treachery over youth and exuberance sort of things there, I think, where there's just some wiliness to that class. You never really know, you know, the Kurt Nunez is the Alan DeGassis, you know, leading the pack here all of a sudden, just blowing everybody away. You never really know how these guys are going to end up. You know, some tracks, they just seem to completely dominate from the Masters class, and then other ones not so much. So really exciting to watch the Masters class. I agree, Ron.
As we see, look at that, a mighty run from Kurt Nunez. I thought he was going to try and stick it. He still goes 3 wide. Look at Chris Montgomery trying to keep the run. Contact there behind. That's Russ Telker coming in. Parvin Lador gets caught up in that drama as well. And I think Michelle Lynn got a piece of that action as well as, upside down. That right there, I think that may have been Telker who got flipped in the midst of all of that. Somebody's on their lid. I think that may have been Telker. He's towed back the pit lane. Contact being made as he tried to go back on the racetrack, and up on his lid he's going to go. Drama into turn number 4 just as we expected. I was going to raise the fact the top 16 were all involved in their own little pack. It looked like a NASCAR Super Speedway race more than anything else, and I had a feeling that something was going to break, and clearly the thing that broke into turn number 4 was a big crash.
Yeah, that was unfortunate for sure there. It's like just a pack of cars, and then unfortunately, yeah, it looked like Russell Telker just kind of came flying in there. There was a gap for him. There was definitely some passing to be had there, but it looks like maybe he just clipped somebody as he was going by them. We'll have to have a quick look at it, but yeah, that was quite the massive race cars there in one spot. And a lot of the time that's what's going to happen when you're trying to occupy the same piece of road as some other cars there. Unfortunately, it looked like a bit of rejoining and everything there too led to some kind of tertiary crashes there afterwards as well. We'll have a look and see if we can't figure out exactly what happened. But up at the front here, Chris Montgomery, Alan DeGassis, Felix Samoas, Andrew Love, all in a pretty tight pack here. Going to be back and forth I think like this for most of the race, and it's really going to come down to who can kind of survive it. You don't want to get too spicy here and cut too many shapes, and it looks like that's what they've been doing till this point. They need to calm down a little bit, kind of file in, see if they can pull away from the rest of the pack and sort each other out here. If they continue to race too hard like this, well, it'll just kind of hand the race to some other people behind them, maybe make things a little bit more stressful than it has to be. But we'll see how it goes here as we see them side by side again around most of the lap run.
As we keep eyes on that battle for the race lead, that looks like Felix Samoas has won in that battle, at least for now, as Chris Montgomery got to try and look on the outside of Alan DeGassis into turn number 6. Want to mention that moment down into turn number 4. It's something that I talk about a lot in these broadcasts. When you see something like this go on with a field covered by nothing, really duking it out, a moment like this for Telker and all the other drivers collected in this incident can really be a wake-up call for drivers up and down the grid. They see something like that go on, and then they say, you know what? It's been fun racing up to this point, but now I think I should probably take it a little bit easy. These aren't the longest races in the world. In fact, in the Weekend Warriors world, they are the shortest, 30 minutes compared to the 40 for the Formula 410 Spec Racer Fords tomorrow here on SMB. But when you have something like this go on, you see that crash, and it's a wake-up call to say, hey, look, still got a whole lot of racing left to go. I don't need to throw it to the woodwork just yet.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right there, Ron, for sure. We all have those moments, too, where we need to be calmed down a little bit. And I think that might be one of those there. I honestly think it looked to me like he was probably surprised by that he was all of a sudden in between those two cars up front. I don't think he was expecting them to whoa up quite as much as they did. And he kind of found the gap for a moment there, but then unfortunately didn't work out for him. But, that's a really good point you raised there, Ron, that, you're going to have to just kind of, you just have to calm down a little bit sometimes. That's really all it is, and every one of us gets caught up in that. As we see Montgomery here just wedging Felix Samoas around every corner side by side throughout pretty much the entire track here. Last lap it was Samoas and I believe DeGassis side by side for most of the lap. Now it is Samoas and Chris Montgomery beside each other for most of the lap. Can't see this being super quick around here, Ron, but Phillip Island is pretty wide. It doesn't look like they're losing a lot of time somehow.
Yeah, it looks like they're just holding their own. They're not throwing haymakers at each other too terribly bad. I've certainly seen worse. But a good metric to see how much they're slowing each other down is the fact that a matter of a couple laps ago, Guido Marzuki slotted in 5th, was about 1.8 seconds back of your P4 runner, which is now Andrew Love. That gap has now gone down to about 1.3, 1.2 seconds at some points in time as well. So you can see it starts to grow once they get onto the flat-out blast. But in the tight and twisties throughout the opening part of the lap when they had their way down into the likes of turn 4, 5, 6, and 7, then you also look at turns number 10 and 11 right towards the end of the lap. That's when that gap starts to shrink. If these racers really start to battle a little bit too hard and slow themselves down just enough, that 1 second threshold for the draft is going to get broken through, and then we'll see the likes of Guido Marzuki, Stefan Heemskirk, and Josh Justice just get vacuum sealed to the back of that pack.
Yep, you're right, and they are catching up for sure. They are bleeding a little bit of time, aren't they? Brian Czasinski here leading in S2, kind of on a little bit of an island by himself here. I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Donnie Isley here, Michelle Lind, and Czasinski end up catching up to him. They do have the draft. They don't fight too hard. It should be fairly easy to catch up to him, but he does have a fairly good lead right now as we are just dicing for the lead up here front. Or at the front every lap. Alan DeGassis is going to lead into T1 for this lap, and I would imagine we're going to be side by side here again with Chris Montgomery and Felix Samoas looking on the inside. Not quite yet. And we have Andrew Love back there just kind of looking at things. trying to figure out maybe exactly where he should be at the end of the race. I like that position. That's the position I like to be in, kind of right there. I don't really see the need dicing back and forth in the front. You do have to do this to keep the speed up. You have to, if you're leading the race, you have to play that game, but it's not necessarily the most comfortable place to be, is it, Ron?
Yeah, I think all of these racers are running slightly uncomfortable at the current moment. They are all feeling a little bit nervous. We touch on this, talking about shaking the cobwebs off. These racers in the Weekend Warriors world, they do get kept on their toes a little bit. In that Week 13 break, there isn't a Formula V Weekend Warriors race, but we still have the Week 13 V runoffs, which this past week was held at Charlotte. But these drivers, some of them may not have participated in that race. They may have just taken a week off. It may have been a little bit of time since they last got in the sim rig, and being able to dust themselves off, get back into the swing of things can be a little bit difficult. I remember covering a Porsche race this past few weeks, and noting the fact that in a long season break, some racers had to take a little bit more time than others to really dust the cobwebs off. Oh boy, howdy! That right there was, I think that was Brian Hansen spinning, heading down the start-finish straightaway. I think he clipped the grass, trying to pull off some aggressive moving, and in the act of all of that, he spun himself around.
Yeah, sometimes that was definitely too big of a shape to cut there. It looked like he did, Ron. It looked like he just kind of clipped the grass. I think he was just trying to kind of pull out of the draft there and make a bit of a run, and he just ended up clipping the grass and spinning. Actually wasn't looking for that particular moment, but ended up finding it anyways here, as we're in a pretty good race going here between the mid-pack here. I believe Michelle Lynn leading here. Brian Shazinski having a look around the outside here while she gets pressure from the back. Not going to make that move stick quite yet, but she's definitely under pressure here. Just got past Donnie Isley, I believe, a lap before this. So pretty good race happening back here as well. And it does look like we've lost Antonio Reese back here. Must have got caught up in that earlier incident with his new, I believe he's gone for the Hulk this time. So I believe it was Wolfonio. Now we're Hulkerino, something like that.
Yeah, so last season it was Wolveronia. Now it's
Right.
Holnicaronio, I think was the team name there. I'm gonna have to,
okay.
I kind of feel bad because thinking about it, I think I may have potentially leaked that change in running the trading paints for last week's Formula V, not last week's Formula V, last week's Weekend Warriors V runoffs event. I remember looking at that car, it's like, oh, it's green this year. I guess he's going for the Hulk. I didn't actually say that on the air, but I did show his car enough whereby some eagle-eyed viewers may have been able to discern that, to invoke a little French. For now, though, we look at Stefan Heemskerk in the 96 machine slotted in P7. He's still involved in this three-car battle with himself, Josh Justice, and Guido Marzucchi. Guido took a bit of a break from the Formula V's last season, and is, of course, the producer for the other Weekend Warrior shows here on SMB. All around a great guy, and he put in some pretty good performances last weekend during the V runoff. So keeping our eyes on Guido to see what he can do, involved in a close battle with himself. Heemskerk, who we didn't see much of last season, but in the season before that, I remember he was rather impressive. Made the leap up from Spec 2 to Spec 1 midway through the season because he was so good. And you also look at Josh Justice in the midst of all that, a Weekend Warrior stalwart. Keep eyes on that battle as we look at three wide racing at the front between Andrew Love, Chris Montgomery, and Felix Samoa. Samoa's going to be the first to back out of it on that outside line. Love going to try and hold it down in the middle, and Andrew Love now going to try and fend off that spot still into turn number 2. Chris Montgomery going to keep the momentum rolling on the high side. Will he be able to get that spot? He will not. Now he has to worry about holding on to second, as Samoa is going to keep that momentum rolling on the inside line. He's now going to be side by side with him through into 3.
Yeah, it's almost every lap here. They're kind of just switching position, doing a really good job of it so far as well. They are bleeding a little bit of time, but not as much as you might think, or as you could here up at the front. So it does look a little bit like they're fighting, but they're doing a pretty efficient job at it so far. I haven't seen a lot of, people just kind of stubbing each other off into corners or half passing each other. You want to get those passes done, get by the person, and continue on. If the other driver gives you a bit of a hard time mid-corner or is wedging your rear tire so you can't hit apex and so on, all that does is slow everybody down. It's super frustrating. Everybody hates it. And it looks like, that's not really happening up in the front here. They're kind of racing with each other as well as against each other, at least for the moment. And Andrew Love leading pretty commandingly so far here. He's got a good shot today, I think. Everybody here in this lead pack here has a pretty good shot. See, Guido Marzucci is definitely catching up to this pack in the back here, Ron. He's 1.7 away from the lead now. Yeah, I think he's probably got a pretty good chance of catching up to this pack if he keeps pushing and he plays his cards right here. If they continue to squabble the way they do, he's got a pretty good run away from that pack behind him now. So I think he might be able to catch him, Ron.
Yeah, I will say that gap has fluctuated. It's gone down to as low as about 1.1 to about 1.2 seconds. That's fluctuated to be as high as 2.1, 2.2 like it is right now. Fluctuating a lot. I don't think, unless there's a big push or these racers just completely duking as Montgomery going to split the difference and go for the middle. Down into turn number 1 is now himself and Felix Samoas battling for that overall race lead. Keep an eye on Love, though. He's been leading this race for a decent amount. He tries to look for it down the inside to turn at number 2, and he is still holding on to that P3 spot. We talked about it last season, and he was able to win as a Spec 2 racer. And a reminder to those who haven't tuned into the series before, that is just a class. These cars still exactly the same in each single category. The only difference is probably the setup and certainly the driver. So we'll have to keep an eye on Andrew Love. He's a very calm, cool, collected racer. He knows how to do well in these Formula V cars, and certainly proved that at this very same racetrack last season. So let's see if Andrew Love will be able to do something that I'm not sure has been done in a very long time, as that's Antonio Reese making contact into the turn. It's himself and Donnie Isley who come to blows, and that's going to be Antonio spinning around now down to 12th.
Yeah, that's too bad. You saw Michelle Lynn setting up a pretty decent pass there and kind of just accordioned a little bit on Antonio there, I think, and he got caught out slightly. A little bit tripped over the brakes there, I think, trying not to hit his competitor. So unfortunately, he's going to lose some more time here, and that's really, really going to gap him from this pack. Pretty hard to catch up to that pack now, but hey, maybe Kurt Nunes has somebody he can look to catch now. That'll motivate him to step on it just a little bit more. Looking like he's got a bit of a bent nose there in the front, perhaps, but yeah, back up at the front here. Montgomery leading. We are back and forth with this group of 4 drivers here. Not really sure where I'd want to be for the end, but I don't think it's out front.
Yeah, no, frankly, I'd probably want to be in P3 at the start of that final lap. P2, you get so many opportunities that you can also really get leapfrogged as well. As look at Andrew Love entered this straightaway in P3, and let's see how it's all going to work. There's a line right there. That's going to come in handy come time for about 13 minutes time when we see that checkered flag out in the air. But Andrew Love able to keep the momentum rolling. He's going to be able to go from P3 all the way into the race lead, but Samoa's going to keep the momentum rolling on the inside line. These Formula Vs, such a momentum-based car. They're like karts. I've said it on several occasions. They're basically single-speed karts with a cockpit and a little bit of suspension. Not a lot, just far more than a go-kart, but not a whole lot compared to some other Formula cars out there in the racing world.
Yeah, definitely not. They're basically bathtubs with wheels on them and a motor in the back for sure. And that's kind of what makes them so unique and cool as well. They're so simple. You know, they're fairly inexpensive as far as race cars go to run. I believe there's parts for them all over the place. There's great communities for them. And here on the service, you know, it's just one of the better cars to learn. If you can learn how to drive these and make good decisions and how to pass and not wedge people and so on in these, you can kind of be successful everywhere. And you know, hopefully more people, on the service itself start with a car like this and kind of learn some racecraft before they decide to jump into a GT3 and murder everybody like they seem to do, or in an LMP2 or a GTP car. It's a really, really good place to learn here how to set up a pass, how to get it done. You know, but like we were mentioning before there, when you kind of miss a pass in this or you make a mistake, it really extrapolates. You don't have the horsepower, as you see Felix Samoas getting loose. Montgomery taking the inside there. Very opportunistic move for for Montgomery to see that happen there and just jump right up the inside of Felix as he's kind of bleeding time here on.
Yeah, so Samoa's making sure that he doesn't get sent all the way down to the back, but I'm not sure if that's entirely something that's in his hands right now. It's their 2x2, a 4-pack of V's as they head their way down that start-finish straightaway. Samoa's going to utilize that run to dive down the inside, seemingly to be the good spot to position your car as you head your way down into 1, and let's see how it's all going to work for Samoa as he jumps down to the race lead. Low slotted P2, Chris Montgomery running out your podium with the gases. The last of the cars in this pack as we continue continue to keep tabs on these racers with Love now looking down the inside into turn number 2. I do want to touch on some of the battles a little bit farther behind. We've talked about the Stefan Heemskerk, Guido Marzuki, and Josh Justice battle. Heemskerk going from P7 not too long ago up into P5, so the game of Leapfrog still very much on between those racers. As here we go, it's Love and Samoa side by side through 3 into 4 right now, down on the brakes and through the gears are gonna go, and that'll be Love jumping his way up into the race lead, but Samoa is gonna keep the momentum rolling on the inside line. They're gonna be in a drag race down to 6.
Yeah, it's pretty back and forth around here for sure. The place is just wide enough and drafty enough that you can kind of go back and forth 2 or 3 times in one lap here, which is what they're doing, and they are still bleeding a little bit of time to the pack behind them. I think the closest they've been now is about 1.6 from Guido Marzucci, as it's sort of climbing away now to the 1.7 mark again, but slowly chipping away at this lead pack. By the end, they could be there. We got about 10 minutes left. We could have that pack of Marzucci, Heemskerk, and Justice right on their butt here by the end. They are definitely getting closer. I would imagine now that they've seen that, they'll work together a little bit and try to get there quicker than later. But looking pretty good up front here so far. We've had a fairly clean race. We've had a bunch of changes for the lead. We can come back here down to Donnie Isley back in Spec 2 lead here. Got passed by Michelle Lynn a few laps ago here. Seems to be sticking. I think they've been back and forth a little bit. We got Dan Straczynski just behind him as well, so we could have a fight here for the for the S2 victory as well, Ron, by the end. I have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, so as we continue to keep tabs on these battles up and down the field, it is close quarter stuff all throughout it, and I think we may have a battle between the two Straczynski brothers if Dan can maybe have another push to catch up to this 3-car pack right in front of him. You can see that gap on screen right now. There is Dan in the 899 machine, and there's his brother Brian in the 841 car, top running Formula V Weekend Warriors drivers, running pretty all right as it stands currently. Donnie Isley, part of the Isley family, currently slotted in P9. Nice to see him out here on the racetrack with Michelle Lynn, of course, the sponsor of today's broadcast here of the Formula V Weekend Warriors on SMB, running in P8. In her return to Spec 1, she was in that Spec 1 category about a year ago at this point, but after having a brief adventure back down in Spec 2, where she walked away with the championship 2 seasons ago, she's looking to impress once again, currently slotted in P8. A pretty nice drive from Michelle as it stands presently. Chris Montgomery now holds on to the race lead, with the gap actually growing between himself and DeGassis. It was briefly over a half a second, has now dipped down. You can see how strong the draft is. Just in the small little flat out blast, a gap can go down by half or completely disappear.
Yeah, I'll have a quick look here, see how that happened. Maybe there was a bit of a touch or something here, because we do have a bit of a gap in that field now. I don't think there was. I think he just got the pass done here, and it looks like DeGassis as well is going to squeeze through by Samoas, and then they're going to duke that out a little bit. But nope, so some clean passing there. Nothing too crazy as of yet. I think probably this pack here, are we starting to catch up? Yep, so we're 1.5 now. Another 10th has been chipped away as it kind of starts to peel away here. We're slowly catching this front pack. Not sure they're going to make it by the end here, as we're going to go 3 wide again. So you can take a look from Andrew Love here. Just exactly what's going on in front. You can see how close they're getting to each other. These drivers getting pretty comfy with each other after season of driving with or racing with each other. It looks like they're pretty comfy out there.
Yeah, that's one more thing to raise, talking about the Weekend Warriors world. All these racers have been around this series and been around each other for quite a long time. I mean, last season, Phillip Samoas ran in 5 years as a racer in the Weekend Warriors world. Awesome. This now is, I think this is the start of our 5th season working together on these Formula V Weekend Warriors shows as well, Josh. About a year since we got teamed up to do these, and oh, how time flies when you're having fun. Many of these races that you see up and down the field have been around the Weekend Warriors for many moons, as that's Montgomery running off into the grass through turn number 4. He got that move done, but Samoa is going to be back on his outside line through turn number 6, not able to get that move done. But as we get closer and closer to the end of this race, with only only 5.5 minutes left on the clock. I think these racers are going to begin to turn up the wick, and if they do at the front, as it looks like they're certainly doing, look at DeGassis sticking it down the inside through turn number 8, off into 9 right now. Gotta keep that momentum rolling, and through into the race lead will go the 927 car of Alan DeGassis. But if these racers begin to battle even harder than they are right now, you got to keep an eye on Marzuki, Heemskirk, and Justice right behind. That gap has finally dipped below a second, and they're doing it at the right time as well. Look at that gap. It's basically gone, and now this 4-car battle has turned into a 7-car battle.
Yep, he did it. We weren't sure if he was going to make it up there, but this squabbling up at the front has really helped that situation out a bunch, and now Guido Marzucci is part of that train. He is in the draft, and he will be right up to the back of Andrew Love, or whoever is in the back of this back by T1 by the end of next lap, I would imagine here for sure, as we're going to continue to squabble up front here, going 3 wide. Montgomery in the middle, Felix Samoa's on the outside. We're going to have, you can see them hunting in the back there, just waiting to see if something happens up front here. Been super clean so far, so I expect exactly the same out of these drivers here till the end, at least. Anyway, we know that last lap can get a little bit spicy for sure, but definitely working around out here. I should bring up Wayne Buttermore is up 7 positions here as well. I think he's our biggest climber here today. Definitely doing pretty good this season again. We're seeing him here about mid-pack, 22 drivers. He's in about 14th place. It's usually kind of bringing around the back, and then the last couple seasons, Ron, he's been able to get up to the middle of the field and even up into the front. So some good showings out of Wayne Buttermore in the last few races, and leading into our first race this season here, he's almost up into the top 10 there. Pretty big gap between him and Kurt Nunez at the moment, but up 7 positions from the start.
Yeah, still good drive from him, and what has been a very clean race up to this point. The only retirement being Russ Telker after that moment down into turn number 4. That's that everyone putting in some pretty good drives, some newcomers into the series as well. Here is one of them, Brian Hoover, in the 232 car, currently slotted in P17. He's involved in a battle with himself and Parvin Ladar. Tough a moment for Ladar, getting caught up in that drama in the early stages of this race. I think if he didn't, he would probably be involved in that battle for the race win right now. Probably would have walked away with, for sure, a top 10, maybe even a top 5, potentially a podium, and maybe even a win in his Spec 1 debut. But Ladar looking to impress throughout this season. Antonio Reese has had some difficulties. He's now involved in a battle with himself and Dan Szynski. That's for P11 right now. The discussion I had not too long ago about Dan maybe getting involved in the battle with his brother Brian, I could probably throw that out the window right now, as they're rather spread out. But here we go. 2 wide at the front, 3 wide right behind. It's Montgomery, Samoas, Heemskirk, Love, and DeGassis, all covered by just about nothing. Heemskirk peaking at the right time, saying not only his best lap of the race, but the best lap of the race at a 152.6. Look at him jumping onto the race lead. Now Montgomery gonna look to try and fight back on the inside, out of 1 into 2 right now. Look at Montgomery going for the dive. 3 wide right behind. That is some close quarter stuff with Justice, Love, and Marzuki. Deja vu from what we saw in the earlier stages of this race with a massive pack of cars. We've gone back to that again, Josh.
Yeah, we definitely have some formation flying here again. So, we're going to have to be as dainty and as light as we possibly can with each other here. Try not to make any contact. Doing really good so far. Only a couple laps left here. Maybe 2 laps, maybe 3. I think we're going to get 2 laps left here. So we don't have too much time left to sort this out. This is when things definitely get a little bit spicy out there. That was quite the pass from Heemskirk down the front straight. I'm actually going to see if I can't pull that quickly just to see exactly how much draft he got here. You know what? He was actually pretty close to the front here before we got into that section, wasn't he? I think this was the other pass. We'll go back to live shots here. But that haul that he took down the straight to make it up into first place just shows you how the draft is so powerful in these cars and how you can make it work. And a few laps ago, we're wondering whether or not, as we look back there, whether or not these guys are going to actually catch up. And now we're just in a giant pack of cars here. This is some great racing.
Yeah, and the racing is still not done, but we're getting to the end of this race. A white flag going to be in the air this time by, and leading us onto that white flag is going to be Stefan Heemskirk. If you said that to us a matter of about 10 minutes ago, we'd probably think that you're lying, but in all that battling up at the front and those racers behind forming a brief truce, it's turned that 4-car battle into a 7-car battle. Who's going to get the job done here? Montgomery and Heemskirk side by side as they start the final lap. The white flag in the air, 1 more lap of racing racing action here at Phillip Island, and they are 3 wide up in the front and 3 wide right behind. Look at that. That's Samoa's jumping into the race lead. Look at Josh Justice making contact with himself and Heemskirk. Samoa's now going to have to fend off Chris Montgomery on the high side as they head their way into 2. Look at the 3 wide battling behind. Heemskirk getting shown the door. Started that start-finish straight away in the race lead. He comes out of turn number 2 all the way down in 5th. Oh, dearie me. I think iRacing may have just crashed for our producer, but I'll tell you what, folks, we'll call this radio style. I'll paint the picture for you. Felix Samoas leads him heading down into turn number 4, but he's got some action right behind. That's Josh Justice right on his inside line. They're going to be side by side. Justice gets back at him. They make a little bit of contact as they get to the apex, and that allows Justice to slip his way through. And now right behind, Chris Montgomery looks for it on the outside of Samoas as they head their way through turn number 6. That slightly open hairpin opens it up for Samoas. He's got a good run on Josh Justice. They're going to be side by side as they head their way through turn number 7. It's Justice and Samoas side by side. Chris Montgomery right there behind. There's a bit of a battle that's broken out involving Andrew Love, Stefan Heemskirk, Guido Marzuki, and Alan DeGassis, but there has been a bit of a cushion that was built out. But now Andrew Love going to get involved in they are 3 wide nearly as they head their way down into turn number 10 at the very end of this race. Josh Justice gets that move done on Felix Samoas, but he's in that unfortunate spot. He's going to be punching that hole in the air. You'll look at Chris Montgomery right behind. He's the closest, but he won't have the strongest drift. Stefan Heemskirk and Guido Marzuki get caught up in a battle. They get caught up in a crash. They head their way off the track. They're done for. Now Samoas and Justice dropping down to P2. Andrew Love going to get involved in this battle as well. It's a close finish in the run up to the line. Who's going to get the job done here at Phillip Island for the opening race of the season? Samoas gets spun. Andrew Love crashes, and winning this race at the end is going to be Josh Justice. Look at that 4 wide. Oh, contact being made. It was Alan DeGassis giving a bad bump there and spinning Samoas into Andrew Love. Unfortunate for those two to get caught up in that drama. I'll tell you what, folks, I'll have my perspective from this on. I think I'll probably be able to piece it together after this. I'll tell you what, folks, I'm going to make this promise right now. By the end of the night, if you keep an eye out on the SMB YouTube channel, you'll be able to see that finish at the end. That was madness. No other way to describe it. That was pure madness. You see that contact being made. Andrew Love nearly vaulted over the pit wall. But in all that drama, Josh Justice going to walk away with the win at the first round of the championship. Bravo to him. I thought that he was done for heading on to that start-finish straight away, but as the drama broke out right behind, it was perfect timing. Absolutely perfect timing for him.
Yeah, that looked like a wild finish. Unfortunately, I had a black screen through that whole section there. Worst time ever for iRacing to disconnect on me. I think that maybe has happened to me 2 times in the last 4 years. That was the worst timing it possibly could have done it. I do apologize, but we will piece something together there. I will grab this footage and I will edit it in to the end there, just some raw footage of that last part, and we'll post that up on SMB for you guys to watch here. I'll try to get that done hopefully by the end of the day here. But amazing race there, Ron, for the first round. Too bad we missed the end, but what an amazing race.
Yeah, what a race. What a finish at the end of this. And I think we have some results to touch on at the end of it all as well. I'm still trying to catch my breath after all of that, and I do apologize for that, but hopefully I painted a good enough picture so you could see the drama that was going on at the end. Even though you couldn't actually see it with your eyes, you could just picture it in your brain. But here are the results at the end of this, and look at the gaps for the top 5. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about this race, I really don't know what does. Josh Justice ends up with the win. Alan DeGassis slotted in P2. I gotta say, that bump from DeGassis at the end, that's iffy. That is certainly an iffy maneuver, to be sure. He certainly didn't mean to take him out, but that was definitely ill-advised at best. He still walks away with P2, winning it in the Masters category. Chris Montgomery walks away with a P3 at the end of it. Andrew Love will finish this race in fourth. It's Felix Samoes rounding out your top five in the midst of all that drama as well. Only 78 thousandths of a second behind your race winner of Josh Justice. Insanity. Absolute insanity. Stefan Heemskirk had a piece of that drama with himself and Guido Marzucchi at the end of this race. He comes home in P number 6. Shows you how big of a gap those drivers up at the front had come time for the end of this race. Even with the drama that he got involved in, he still walks away with a pretty solid result at the end of it. And it's Donnie Isley walking away with the win in Spec 2. We didn't even touch on that battle. Well done to Donnie, winning this race in Spec 2, finishing P7 overall. Nicely played. Michelle Lynn is going to finish this race in 8th. It'll be Brian Szynski in 9th, with Antonio Reese rounding out your top 10.
Almost had my mic off there. And right after that, in 11th, we have Dan Trzynski. In 12th, we have Kurt Nunez. 13th, Brian Hansen. 14th, Wayne Buttermore. 15th, Parvinder Ladar. Some pitfalls in the first round there. We expect a little more out of him next round for sure. Brian Hoover in 16th, new driver with us there, so welcome to the Weekend Warriors. Hopefully we'll see you for the rest of the season. Stephen Westcott in 17th. and 18th, we have Jason Grider. In 19th, if it will allow me to move it, and there we go. In 19th, we have Brian Belinsky. In 20th, we have David McLean. 21st, Guido Marzucchi. And in 22nd, Russell Telker.
And so those are your results at the end of the first round of this season. A dramatic finish, a dramatic race. And to get the interviews all up and rolling, I think we will start by having a chat with your race winner at the end of it all, Josh Justice. He was able to put on a mighty drive at the end of this, walks away with a win. So we'll drag him into the commentary booth here in just a couple of moments' time and get his perspective on a very dramatic end to this race. Josh, welcome into the broadcast booth. It's the win for you here at Phillip Island. How was it out there?
That was a crazy race. We had the three of us, spending most of the race trying to draft our way back up the lead pack after that one crash put us up, And so we spent probably 10 laps of the race just to catch up to them. And as soon as we did, we caught them with 2 laps to go. And so I went from being basically the tail gunner of that pack, just like trying to put people in the leapfrog so that the leapfrogging will work a little better. And I was like, I'm going to stick it around the outside of turn 1. There's a gap. There's just enough of a gap. And I went from 7th to, I think, 4th in one turn. And I'm like, all right, we get the last lap, I'm going to follow Felix. I think Felix probably had the best chance here. I'm going to follow him down the front straight. And, I came out of turn 2 right behind Felix in second place. And so I'm like, okay, I made the right call. And then my momentum took me past Felix, and I'm in the lead. And I'm like, I don't want to be in the lead. If you watch the replay, like the last couple turns of the race, I was going like super wide, hoping Felix would be dumb enough to get inside of me, and so I could draft him to beat him in the line. And he didn't take the bait. He stayed behind me. And I was like, shoot, I'm not going to win this way. The best I can do is hold on to second. And as we're going through the final turn, Felix, sure enough, he gets inside of me. Too late, really, for me doing things. But I start side drafting him, and I think that's enough to keep Cliff behind me. And Felix is just on my left, and I can see I'm just slowly creeping up past him and almost to his nose, and then all of a sudden he just goes sideways. I haven't seen the replay yet. I'm not entirely sure what happened. Unfortunately, I don't think I would have beaten Felix to the line if he hadn't been sprung. But, super close race. Everybody clocked the line at basically the same time. I look down and I see I've got the win. I'm like, holy crap, I got the win.
Yeah, I can imagine it was a bit of a shock at the end of that race and an absolutely heart-pumping finish for us to call here in the broadcast booth. Really nice to hear about your perspective and all that. And man, I'm not even sure how you must have felt behind the wheel of that car come time for the end of this race. But looking ahead next week, running at Sebring on the club layout of that track, what are your thoughts heading to that race for week number 2?
Sebring is unfortunately a track that I don't have a good track record at, and I don't tend to do well there. For layout, I don't think improved that very much. I mean, if it's the one I'm thinking of, it get rid of sunset bend and get rid of turn on the back strap, but get all these like really tight infield turns that, and I don't know, it just, I think the big key there is going to be the run from out of tower to the shortcut. That's going to be the key on that track. Whoever got the best run from tower to the shortcut is probably going to be running up front. Because that tower is such a tricky turn, the speed matters. It's on straight for that layout. And, the turn that people make a lot of mistakes on. And then the shortcut itself is also a very difficult turn. It doesn't have very good brake marking. And you could kind of end up like taking the funny angle on the entry. It's going to be a tough race. And I think you're going to see a lot of attrition in that race.
And looking forward to seeing what the action is for sure. It is a rather odd configuration of that racetrack, but I'm rather interested to see how it's all going to play out in 1 week's time. But Josh, as per usual, let you give any thanks or shout-outs before we let you go and celebrate this win.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna celebrate this. I've still got about to unpack my moves and so on. But yeah, I want to give a shout out obviously to the guys at Bigger Hammer Racing down in Texas. They do a lot of the vintage Formula V's, and that's really the only Formula V racing we have in the area is the vintage racing. They do rental, they do tours and maintenance of the cars. Great guy, Bill's a fantastic driver and coach. And they have so many cars and so many different vintage Formula V's that it's really interesting to see all the interesting one-offs that are in his collection. Definitely check those guys out if you get a chance.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now what sort of Formula V racing is up here in the Philly region. I was actually earlier today. I was at an autocross event. I saw someone running a Formula V in the autocross. So nice to see Formula V, probably the hardcore American form of open wheel racing. Always love to see that at SCCA
up
events.
there, in Philly, they have SCCA for both autocross and competitive modern Formula V. And I think they also do some stuff with not Rival Cup or Showing Cup, I think it is. I'm not well versed in that area. I know that Rival Cup, that's Rival with a D, and there's Showing Cup, and both of those all run Formula V on the East Coast, but I can't remember which one north and which one is south.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when I was still in karts running at Pocono, we would stay at the hotel that's connected right to the old Bertle Roos Racing School up there by Pocono Raceway. And still love the fine folks over at the Philadelphia region of the STCA. I raced there for about 10 years and still holds a very fond memory in my heart. But Josh, well done on the win here today, and looking forward to seeing you out there on the racetrack at Sebring next time out.
Yeah, man.
Take care. And that right there was your race winner of Josh Justice joining us here in the broadcast booth. And Josh, we have the opportunity to have a chat with not exactly our Masters winner, but certainly a very top running racer throughout today. It's Andrew Love joining us up there in the interview waiting area. So I'll drag him in here in a couple of moments time so you could have a chat with our P4 finisher at the end of this race.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we were all getting we were all really close together, so the draft boost wasn't quite there. It looked like Alan came up behind Felix and gave Felix a bump draft, which kind of cocked Felix to the left, and that's what took me out. And Felix crossed backwards, and I crossed on top of Felix. And Alan crossed in second place, I guess. So it worked for Alan, but that was a great race. I had a lot of fun.
Well, you know what? I think I just muted myself for that as well. So let's try this again. What exactly are you setting up for yourself here around Phillip Island, it being so wide? And, you were leading the pack back and forth here a few times. What exactly are you thinking there to try to make it up to the front for the end?
I'm just trying to find the best place to get a boost and get the jump on the pack. It's kind of hard because I believe I slowed down a little sooner than everybody else going into the big carousel left-hander, the turn 2. So I was really trying to be out of everybody's way on the inside there going into turn 2, because I would shift down to third pretty early and then I would just hug the curb, initial D drift style all the way around the carousel. But what was I thinking? I was more comfortable in the back of the pack. That's just the way I usually am, than leading. So I didn't mind too much when I was getting past, but I did want to be second or third-ish on that last lap, coming into the last corner, so I get the best chance to get first place, get the win.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking out there. You can see kind of hunting, probably where I would want to be too, about third, maybe fourth place, kind of watching everybody else most of the race there. It looked like, the front pack maybe had a chance to kind of keep away, and you guys were about 4 drivers, and then all of a sudden you were 7. Just a little bit too much squabbling up at the front there, and you may have been able to avoid that, but it is very difficult to manage something like that up front and keep that pace going, keep that other pack away from you. That's going to make such a gnarly ending there, but we will be piecing together the end there for you guys later so you can watch it, so keep an eye out for a repost of this video here.
Okay.
We'll get that replay and we'll put it back together so everybody can see it. But yeah, this is a great way to start off round 1 of season 4. Pretty awesome race in Australia here. Anybody you'd like to thank out there?
I want to thank Michelle for sponsoring. I want to thank Michelle for getting all the sponsors for the entire season. Our season is sponsored. So thank you, Michelle, for all that. Thank you guys for doing the broadcast. Thanks, Stevie, for pushing, promoting the league and all the things to do. Thanks, Jim, for being the admin, putting all the races together, putting the schedule together, all the stuff that Jim does. He's out this week, so hopefully he'll be back next week, ready to race.
Awesome. Yeah, we've got to thank all the admins out there for sure, getting all this stuff ready and the season all lined up and ready to go for everybody. So we're looking forward to it, Andrew. We're looking forward to have you out there again, and a great P4 today. So we'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Have a good one.
You too.
And that right there was Andrew Love. I didn't drag him out of the commentary booth just in time because I'm trying to figure out how I can send the replay of this race so we can get that loaded up in due course without absolutely crashing my computer. But Josh, what a race that we had here at Phillip Island. That was absolutely spectacular from start to finish.
Yeah, excellent round 1 for sure. Good place to start it, I'd say. This place is pretty wide and flowing. Great for the Vs. Really good draft track. Makes everybody kind of think a little bit about where they're supposed to be and who they're going to be fighting. And we had an excellent finish there as well. We'll make sure we re-upload that later on so everybody can check that last lap out. Unfortunately, not exactly sure what happened there, but she just went black and dropped me back into the iRacing menu. So I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but we'll be bringing you all that action later on. And that's not really where it ends here. We do have a lot of upcoming shows here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. We have a super nice new graphic to show everybody here on, so maybe I'll let you take it away here, and we can talk about our races coming up.
Yeah, let's take a look at this super pretty graphic that we have got here on Slow Motion Broadcasting so you can see all of the action to look forward to here on SMB. Tomorrow, we've got some more Weekend Warriors action, the start of the Formula Ford and the Spec Racer Ford season. That's going to be a double feature at Alton Park, the brand new refreshed Alton Park as well. I feel bad for Guido's graphics card, but I'm sure those racers are going to have a whole lot of fun. And that doesn't even do it for the action on Sunday night, as round number 3 of XSLR with the ARCA machines heading off to Bristol Motor Speedway. I've been on production duties for the past 2 rounds of XSLR. Sadly, I am not going to be on there as I am busy reprising my role singing the national anthem at, I'm trying to think of what the odd event would be. Singing the national anthem at cockroach races. There we go. So that's the action that I have to cover on Sunday night. On Tuesday night, though, we have got a double feature with the American Muscle Series running at ? The friend of those races, Matt Malone, and the drafting of the tracks. You'll be able to see that action wherever it is at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday, September the 23rd. I'll be on production duties for the SRG F4 race later on that evening at Monza. That'll be some good action for round number 2 of that championship. And then this upcoming Wednesday, we've got some rather intriguing racing to look forward to with the brand new Ferrari Challenge cars added in just last season on iRacing. We're going to be running the opening round of the Extreme Motorsports Ferrari Road Oval Challenge at Sebring. That'll be on Wednesday, September the 24th at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time. And that'll probably end roughly around the same time that the racing action is getting kicked off with the Sim Racers Group F3 Series. They're going to be running on the brand new Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. That'll be at 9:45 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday night. And of course, next time out for the Formula V Weekend Warriors, that's actually for the Formula Fords. I think we may need to get that out. The calendar for this series only got finalized a matter of about a day ago, but it'll be at Sebring next week for the Formula V. So a whole lot of action to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Gives you a fantastic reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. If you're in the mood for something a little bit punchier, a little bit more packed in with the action, you can take a look at a very scary moment that happened just this past Tuesday for the Sim Racers Group F4 Series, a rather close call at Summit Point, along with many of the other amazing YouTube shorts that we have got here on Slow Motion Broadcasting as well. But as for this broadcast, for week number 1 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at Phillip Island, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's broadcast, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.